While wrestling fans are never wrong in their heads, they absolutely are in reality, and I include myself in that. We're quick to judge and take forever to win a round, which sometimes means we miss talent that stood in front of our eyes. Why we do this I don't know, but you think we would learn. To date, we have not. It usually comes when we see someone deliberately being pushed down our throats and decide that's not fair, and what we really should ponder is why they're in that place to begin with. They must have done something to be put there, and as shocking as it may sound, wrestling promoters aren't actively trying to kill their own product. They are trying to do some good. I'm Simon from What Culture. Remember to hit the subscribe button, and this is 10 wrestlers everybody was totally wrong about. Number 10, Braun Strowman. When Braun Strowman appeared on Raw in August 2015 and attacked Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns as he was revealed as the newest member of the Wyatt family, boy howdy did we roll our eyes. This man Mountain hadn't spent more than 5 minutes in NXT, and now he was on the main roster just because he was big? I don't think so, pal. This will surely be an absolute disaster, said Reddit. Whoops. And yeah, he was green as anybody in this position would be, plus there was sadness when it turned out he would be feuding with Sami Zayn for fine-tuning. Why would we use Zayn in this way, we cried. Following that and a feud with Roman Reigns that was so over the top the crowd warmed to him, Strowman started to win everybody over. I mean, he tipped over an ambulance for goodness sake. That is always going to work. Today he's found his place and he's accepted everywhere he goes. Doesn't feel as exciting as he did a couple of years ago just because of his booking, but still, we were wrong. We just have to accept it. Number 9, Sid. In 1993, Sid Vicious was voted quite highly in all the Wrestling Observer Awards that no performer wants to be in. Least improved, least favourite, most overrated. His name was fighting it out for the top spot as fans rallied against him. Now, this could have been because it was the year when he tried to stab Arn Anderson with some scissors, and that is not cool on any level. Who could possibly have anything nice to say about him when you did that? WWE didn't care that much, mostly because Sid was tall. Given that he had been released from WCW, they drafted him in, and while his arrival sucked as he was put with Ted DiBiase's awful corporation stable, he soon found his feet. Put against Shawn Michaels in order to give him a slab of meat to beat, what happened instead was the fans started to cheer for Vicious because look at him. He came across as a madman and the ruler of the world, and that was enough. Didn't matter, he was probably a loon. There was something to him, and all plans were scrapped and chucked out the window. This goes to show, you never know. Number 8, Mohammad Ahsan. If Mohammad Ahsan hadn't been given one of the worst gimmicks in history, who knows what would have become of the man? Walking into WWE in 2004, at first it was all rather thought-provoking because the idea was he was touching on a sensitive modern point. After the tragedy of 9/11, xenophobia was running high, even for American-born people like Hussein, who just so happened to have a foreign background. However, this soon descended into I'm not from here, so boo me rhetoric that WWE had been doing for years, and that was that. It was insulting and it was offensive. He basically became exactly what he was rallying about to begin with. When all of this tied in with an actual terrorist attack that the company did nothing to tiptoe around, the character was banned from TV, which actually stopped Ahsan from winning the title at that year's SummerSlam. Or so it was said. This all worked against the real-life Mark Capani, and while he was sent back to developmental, he could never get past this to the point he quit wrestling entirely in 2005. There was definitely something there that could have been harnessed in TNA or the like, but this ordeal meant that ship had sailed. Number 7, The Miz. The Miz couldn't have had a worse start in WWE. Following his appearance on Tough Enough in 2004, fans didn't want to see him anywhere near the company ever. Rubbed everyone the wrong way just by being himself. Vince McMahon disagreed though, and even though he finished second, Miz was hired and put in an interview role. Even then he was booed mercifully, and wrestlers hated him too. He was told to dress in the hallway because they wanted no part of him. The thought process was Mr. Miz was just here for the fame and didn't care much about wrestling, so the fact he was also getting a push just because he donned some trunks was too much for everyone. He was the now unwanted golden boy, so flub him. Through sheer guts, determination and hard work though, Miz won everyone over, even after another blip at WrestleMania 27 where he went into the event as WWE Champion and came out the other side still with the gold even though he was going against John Cena. Respected and kind of beloved these days, it's a real testament to the man's character for believing in himself and seeing it all the way through. Today, basically untouchable. Number 6, The Rock. Never forget that The Rock went from fans telling him to die to the biggest superstar in the world. A tale as old as time itself these days, the future great one was absolutely rejected when he arrived at Survivor Series 1996, as Vince McMahon told him to smile and dance around like he didn't have a care in the world. Even if he lost, he would carry on grinning because darn it, he'd get him next time. The vitriol made for the perfect heel turn, which Rocky played perfectly, and from there it was just an upward journey to the top. His promos were too good, his over-the-top nature too endearing, and his whole presentation was brilliant, and before long you couldn't help but love him. If wrestling is about entertaining, no one did it better, arguably ever. He's a trailblazer these days and bigger than anyone ever thought possible, and it all started with audiences rolling their eyes and thinking they were seeing a future nobody. Yeah, about that. Number 5, Enzo and Cass. We go the other way on this one because nobody saw it coming. At one point in time, Enzo and Big Cass were so over with the NXT audience it seemed like they were destined for huge things. The amount of merchandise they sold alone was enough to give them a good spot on the main roster, as and when the time made sense. It started well too. Their debut after WrestleMania was greeted by a rapturous noise from the crowd, and even though they never won a title, it didn't matter. The catchphrase alone was enough, but unfortunately, it didn't work out this way. Instead, both imploded for various reasons and made such scenes backstage that when rumors sparked they could be making a return to NXT, Triple H even went public saying that is not the case, and as far as he's concerned, he never wanted to happen. Talk about burning a bridge. You never say never in WWE, but to go from future superstars to not even being able to pretend you're coming back to the company sums it up. We don't know what's best for the pair, but it doesn't seem as if WWE is going to be on their radar anytime soon. Number 4, Damien Sandow. Another guy who the fans saw money in but no one backstage did. Damien Sandow was one of these guys who was given lemons and turned it into lemonade. The intellectual savior of the masses smashed it. Damien Mizdow smashed it. He even got a massive pop when he walked out on TV and said he wasn't going to muck around with this kind of nonsense anymore. The audience always bought into his shtick, and then he was unceremoniously let go by WWE. It was a head scratcher given that at the very least he would have been solid in the mid-card, but even that was too much apparently. Every time he got some momentum it was thrown out the door, such as losing his Money in the Bank briefcase or not being given the nod to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal at WrestleMania. He got rid of The Miz, who had been a thorn in his side, received a massive ovation, and then got tossed by the Big Show. From there, he hasn't done much in wrestling. There was some hope he would go on to pull a Cody Rhodes before Cody Rhodes, but instead he just stepped away, and that is a bit sad. Either way, Sandow was never able to reach the promised land, despite that being the hope of people all over the world. Number 3, Mark Henry. When Mark Henry was first signed to a WWE contract, it was for a very lucrative 10-year deal. They saw huge potential in the man for obvious reasons and wanted to push him upwards. It's not quite what happened. For one reason or another, Henry ran foul of WWE management and rubbed a lot of people backstage the wrong way, something he himself has admitted, which impacted what he was able to do within the company. Before long, he had become sexual chocolate, and while there were some wildly memorable moments, I don't think the world's strongest man was hired to sleep with Mae Young. Confident of this one. This continued for a while to the point there were rumors WWE were trying to force him out with these daft gimmicks, but Henry stood tall. It was the right move. Starting in 2006 when he had a war with Batista and The Undertaker, by 2011 his Hall of Pain gimmick had taken off and he'd found his groove. He was a worthy world heavyweight champion and somebody you could believe in. The John Cena fake retirement angle was the icing on the cake, and anyone who thought Mark had sunk in the late 90s was reminded that while it may take a bit longer to get to the top than you thought, as long as you get there in the end, who the hell cares? Number 2, Mr. Kennedy. This one is just crazy. If you got in a time machine and went back to 2006, no one had more upside than Mr. Kennedy. Not only did fans think he warranted a big push, but that was management's plans too. When does that ever happen? We should have known then it was too good to be true. Pretty much within a year of his debut, he had won the US title, feuded with The Undertaker, and won Money in the Bank, and even after all that, nobody begrudged him anything. This was the next guy, there was no two ways about it, only somehow there was. It started when he was forced to drop the briefcase to Edge after a misdiagnosed shoulder injury, but his huge storyline, where he was to be revealed as Vince McMahon's illegitimate son, was also canned after he was caught up in the Signature Pharmacy scandal. It all gone very wrong for Ken. The end came when he dropped Randy Orton onto his shoulder during a match that pissed the Viper off, and that meant political powers came into play, and he was let go in 2009. He's never even been close to a return with WWE, and at this point, probably never will. That is the turnaround of the decade. Number 1, the Giant Gonzalez. Weird one, right? You didn't expect that, but it all comes down to expectations and perception. But in a world where work rate is king, Gonzalez struggled. He could barely walk, let alone put a match together, but that's where we're wrong, because this was never the point. For you see, the whole reason the Giant was brought into both WCW and WWE was that he was tall. That was it. He made fans gasp when they saw him, and he was so big in wrestling that can be enough. Having someone like this on your roster is definitely considered an attraction. And that is that. At no point was he ever going to have a 5-star classic, but nor was he meant to. And by that logic, we should all give him far more credit. Although we won't, because he also wore a hairy bodysuit. I will never understand that. And yes, he didn't actually lose to The Undertaker properly at WrestleMania. Let's not talk about it. Know of any other wrestlers everybody was totally wrong about? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again soon. And I know my voice needs a break.